Welcome back to another month in Superman. You know what? We had a little bit of run over from February to March. So we're going to be doing like a 6-week coverage period right now. But next month, we're going to be starting at the beginning of the month. And we're going to be having all of the month combined here on This Month in Superman. But just a little programming note to tell everybody. I want to welcome you to my favorite podcast that I'm doing right now, This Month in Superman, with my friends from Beer with Geeks, Mr. Superfrank. How are you doing today, sir?
Hey, buddy. It's good to be here. I'm excited to talk about the Red Blue Man.
Yes. Frank is the Action Comics to my Tim Tangent, who is my Superman. So, Tim Tangent, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. I got the lead title. I don't like that's
well.
Sorry,
I
Action
think
Comics #1.
they're both good. They're both great. And we have the absolute addition to my friends, Mr. Super Tim, who has been on the show before. Super Tim, how are you doing today?
I apparently have the emotional trauma of the group.
Ooh, that's not far off.
No.
These guys, I love talking Superman with, so I'm very happy to be here. Let's get it started. Actually, real quick, do we have any drinks for the Beer with Geeks?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Because I'm always prepared just in case
Yes.
if we call out Beer with Geeks.
Okay.
I'm drinking Adora Dam,
Ooh.
which is
Language.
it's a DA. So it's or like that thing that Superman saves in Superman 78.
Yes, yeah.
There you go.
Nice.
Bringing
So
it back.
it is a beer. It is a beer from Barcelona. The company's been around since 1876. It is 100% natural ingredient beer, but
Oh, wow.
it is crafted to remove gluten.
Nice.
Nice.
Wow,
Frank, you got
and it's
got
really
any,
good. You would never know.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yes.
You would never know. Yeah.
I've got nothing. I've got nothing special here.
Okay.
I'm just having a Corona. Nothing crazy. Just
Gotcha.
kicking back on the beach.
The Vin Diesel
Excellent.
drink.
The official cerveza of Vin Diesel.
That's
Yes. We had some honorable mentions this past month. We're covering the tail end of February and then the beginning of March. Both issues of Justice League Unlimited, 4 and 5, feature the Man of Steel in the background, so we don't necessarily need to talk about those. Did you guys have anything specific about those issues that you wanted to call out?
Twist. I mean, I'm not going to talk about it, but twist, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Honestly, I didn't love it, but it's
Okay.
twist.
Yeah, like Justice League Unlimited is just like it's been good. Like I've been liking it because Mark Waid's been does the Lord's work, and and so it's been good. And Darren Moore's art is always fantastic, so it's been good. I don't know. It's fine. Like it's fine.
Okay.
And it's not great. It's not terrible. It's fine.
Yeah.
It
It's a
really-
book I'm reading, right? And
Yes.
I will
Yeah, it is a
continue to
book
read
that I'm reading. I can honestly say that it is a book that I'm reading.
I have to say, here's a twist real quick. I'm actually surprised that I'm still enjoying World's Finest as much as I am because they had the team change, but I don't feel like they lost a step.
He throws everything at that book. Like you think that this is going to be a thing? Whoop! There it is. And yeah, there's so much stuff.
100%. Frank, are you partaking in the Justice League Unlimited?
I'm not caught up.
Okay.
I did read issue 1 after your recommendation last episode. And yeah, I mean I'm in,
Okay.
but I'm probably gonna back burner it until Superman comes back to the forefront, just for the sake of this show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
that sounds
but I'm-
good.
But I'm in to start to add it to the mix for myself.
It probably
Okay,
would
sweet.
benefit from a binge read, like it
Yeah.
reads
Yeah.
like that, where because so much is happening, but in a very small incremental amount of time. So I feel like if I read it all in one sitting or 2 sittings or whatever, I'd probably like it more.
It also benefits from because I'm also reading Justice League: The Atom Project because Ryan Parrott is awesome and I really like his writing, and he wrote the Power Rangers book and that was really great. And like when you read that book, it kind of fills in the blanks with some of the other things that are happening within it, especially with with Adam and with all those characters. So I mean, I think that Justice League Unlimited benefits from that as well.
Okay. The only other honorable mention I wanted to talk about was Secret Six #1, which I thought was a really good first entry into this Secret Six world. John Kent is the reason why it's kind of an honorable mention, because he's part of the Super family. And I really liked Nicole Means as a writer. I think she's kind of getting better and better as it goes on. She was the actress, or she is the actress who portrays Dreamer, and they've kind of given her, DC's kind of just given her the Dreamer everything. Like, okay, you're in a comic book, you're in live action, you're in everything Dreamer. So we're going to give that to Nicole Means, and I really enjoyed that first issue. Did anyone else happen to check that out? Tim Tangent and Super Tim, did you guys enjoy Secret Six #1?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
It's been so long.
It was a book that I read. Yeah.
Another one.
Yes.
No,
I will
maybe a little
concur.
bit. Yeah.
It was a book that I read. I enjoyed it. And,
Okay.
you know, like you said, you know, I read it for this, and I read it for John Kent, and I've not been disappointed in anything that John Kent has been in since he's been, you know, kind of reinserted into the Superman fray.
Yeah. I just read it last night, actually, and so it's real fresh in my mind. And as far as the John stuff is concerned, it was good, and the Dreamer stuff was good. Truthfully, I don't really like Gossamer. I don't like John's boyfriend, and so I'm just kind of like, and like so much of the book is like this kind of angst, and I maybe just because I'm definitely older than the protagonist of that book now, but I'm just like, yo, like just breathe for a second, talk it out, be a little sure about it. I know he like killed your mom or something, but she like, you know, like, but you're kind of putting a lot on Dreamer that's really not her fault. And, you know, I just like, so it felt a little stretched out to me in that way, but maybe that's just because I'm getting older.
I could see that. That sounds very relatable as well. So those are our honorable mentions. Now let's get into our main meat and potatoes. So the first book that came out, which, like I said, we're doing the tail end of February 26th, Superman #23. Now we have been enjoying this this kind of time trapper doomsday storyline that's been going on. So let's go with our guest, Mr. Super Tim. What did you think about Superman issue #23?
I don't know if we've ever talked about on this show about the entire run of Joshua Williamson on Superman, but it's just been fantastic. It has been a wonderful ride from the beginning, and like with Supercore and everything, and then having Lois be Superwoman has been just a wonderful addition. The Superwoman special, fantastic as well. The Lex Luthor special, fantastic. And this Doomsday time trapper thing is like bringing in so many like elements from Superman's history with Doomsday and with time trapper, and that's been really cool. But yeah, this book is just solid. And you know, ever since All In, you know, it's Joshua Williamson and Dan Mora, and it's just been a lovely combination. Of the Superman books, it's the one I look forward to reading the most. It's just really great. It's really great. I love all the things that Joshua Williamson has been doing. I really liked his Green Arrow run. I've loved his Superman run. And one thing that kind of makes those runs so special is that he really leans on the family aspect of the character. And, you know, because you think about all these different super people. You have Superman, Superboy, both of them, Supergirl, Power Girl, Steel, the refugee characters whose names are escaping me, and all these characters, just bringing them all in together and working together. It's been fantastic to read, and it's just been wonderful. And I really love this issue. It was really great.
Yes, and we're going to talk about Superman 23 and 24 back to back, because those both released in since the last recording. Superfrank. Let's kick it off with Superman 23. What are you thinking about this time trapper stuff?
The time trapper stuff, I'm always sort of, I'm usually a little on reusing Doomsday in new places. It's the kind of thing where I'm like, first of all, there are other characters, but secondly, like, it doesn't have to be. Did it have to be Doomsday? Like, what really is it? It being Doomsday, what is it adding? Really? Like, but that's my own thing. I really actually am. I think this month, this was my favorite title. I really, and it had been, it's kind of changing, you know, it had been Absolute the last couple of months, but this month I think Superman is the one that did it for me.
Tim Tangent, how are you? We've been enjoying this, as we talked about on the last episode, but what about 23 stood out to you?
I think what stood out to me the most about 23 is how Lois centric it is as a point of view.
Yeah.
You know, like she's not been necessarily been in the background of at all of the current run, but she is the foreground character.
Sure.
In this time, and everybody else takes a back seat. And I really like that. And the first couple of issues, not that there didn't feel like there were stakes, but like, oh, okay, aliens come and this and yeah, all the stuff happened. But in this issue, they're real up, with stuff with Jimmy, and then what happens to Time Trapper or Doomsday, and it kind of just keeps going like that. And then now it feels like everything's ramping, even what's happening with Lex. But I love that there was, in some ways, not equal parts, but there was this big bombastic action set piece mirrored with some really nice quiet moments that were still Lois centric. And I like that Lois is learning lessons, which I don't want to say that Lois doesn't learn lessons a lot, but she doesn't, because normally she's the one dishing the lesson because she's already got it. So it's actually really refreshing to see Lois kind of be outside of her comfort zone, because she basically makes any situation her comfort zone. And so for Lois to really be at odds with herself in the way that she used to treat the world and now how she has to treat it differently was really, really good.
I was very interested to see kind of the cliffhanger ending that happened, where the absolute or the all-in universe, we're finally getting to see the Legion of Supervillains again. Super Tim, you've been all in on the Absolute universe. Do you like that it's been a year since that all in special that they
really?
I'm sorry, what? It's been a year?
No way. No way. That wasn't a year ago. That had to been like 6
I'm gonna
months
look up
ago,
the
right?
exact date in a second here, but what are you thinking about them bringing them back and tying in that other universe, the other side of the Absolute and DC universe, the dark side?
It was not a year ago. It was October 2nd. So
Oh,
there you
wow. Wow. It kind of caught me off guard because I was already, I was invested in the Superman story, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. That is something else that I want to see, is how are these two universes going to tie into each other, and what's going to be that storyline. So yeah, that was actually a really welcome surprise for me. Did Superfrank and Tim Tangent, did you have any thoughts on Zod appearing here?
Oh yeah, that was very exciting, and exciting sign of things to come. An interesting story point to have him depowered and keeping that secret. That's some I'm into that. I'm into that. That's some good stuff. One thing I clocked and really loved from this issue on the Time Trapper side of things was when he was all like, Superman, give me your rage. I was expecting a Red Lantern ring to come flying.
I wanted to
Not
Tim
really,
Tangent,
but a little.
Tim Tangent, can you give us some background on that? You're the most well versed of us in the previous issues. The Superman rage thing, it's been building a little bit, and I think there's gonna be some boiling point where like he loses control. Where did that first start? Do you remember?
I don't actually.
Okay.
I wish that I could tell you, but it's sometimes when you read things in comics, you just go, yeah, that's probably a thing that I don't remember. And you just kind of move in,
Right, yeah.
on. It's just like you just kind of let it wash over you, because that's no matter what. When you first start reading comics, you don't get some references. Is you just kind of learn to roll with the punches, and so I'm just kind of rolling with it. I'm like, yeah, that's
Yeah,
fine.
sure, that happened. I probably don't remember it, but yeah, that tracks.
Yeah,
I
right.
also, yeah, in the back of my mind, I was thinking of Red Lanterns as well. I want to know where that specifically came from, because when I was reading it, I was like, man, I feel like I missed a big storyline of him having this rage and him trying to control it. So that is something I'm going to be keeping tabs on and keeping an eye on. So, man, Dan Mora's art doing the Lord's work, as Super Tim says. But Superman 24,
Hold on,
we
Before we
got
go to
a
24,
oh,
before we go to 24, I just want to
yes.
point out one thing with Zod that I thought was really
Oh,
cool.
okay.
Where when the alien is like,
Yes, little
maybe we
frog
can get
guy.
you close to sun. It's been a while. Like you haven't seen any. But Zod says, "I don't need the last son of Krypton's powers to ensure it." And that's when he sploosh the guy's head.
Mhm.
What was more interesting about me that he doesn't associate the powers with himself. He
Hmm.
associates them with Kal-El.
Mm-hmm.
Like
That is
they're not
interesting.
like
Yeah.
his own divine right,
Hmm.
like because he ruled without them.
Right.
So like in his own mind, the powers are just an added bonus, but
Hmm.
they're also associated with this person that he has every reason to hate. Well, he has actually no
Yeah.
reason to hate him, but he feels like he does.
Right.
Just gives
And
another layer to him.
I thought that was
too.
really interesting that he's like, no, I'm still amazing. Like, because any other villain would be like, I need to get that thing back because that's my identity. And Zod's like, that's not my identity. That's not even close to my identity. I'm incredible without them. Which makes
If it
him
was Lex and he
more
lost those
threatening.
powers, he'd be like, I have to get him back. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I loved that. That was a great, very small character moment, but with big gameplay.
Right. All right. That is very interesting, Mr. Tangent. Thank you very much for bringing that up. Let's jump into Superman number 24. Wait, 24 or 25?
24.
24.
24, yes. Superman 24, there was a guest artist. Dan Mora was not on the interiors. He was on the covers. We had Eddie Barros and Eber Ferreira on the interior art. And man, that Lex and Mercy one-page smooch, I was very pleased with. I really like that as an opening, like almost like a cold open. So what did you think? Let's go again to our guest, Super Tim. What did you think about this next issue of Superman?
I love this issue. This is the one where Lois was with the Justice League, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I love that. I loved seeing her like go on her own little mission because what we were talking about Lois being kind of out of her comfort zone, being in a superhero team definitely fits into that. And it was really cool to see kind of like her kind of figure that part out. Like, because this whole arc, she's been learning like how kind of Clark kind of operates and it was really what it's like to be Superman, like how to fly, and we saw a little bit of that in the penultimate episode of Smallville a little bit, and so it's kind of cool to see that like kind of monthly, and so this was another aspect of that, and I really liked the conversation that Lois and Clark had about how they're kind of figuring out how to split the responsibility of Supercorps versus Justice League and things, and that was really neat. I really loved how this just felt like a culmination of the entire Supercorps arc. And it just feels like that Mercy has just been playing Superman this entire time, like a total Lex move. And I was like, whoa, what is going on here? And then, she unveils her Super Lex. And I'm just like, and then it ends. I'm like, are you kidding me? Jeez. But
why did he have an L on his chest?
Yeah, I know. But it's going to be a good issue, number 25. That's going to be happening this month.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head. The culmination of the Supercorps arc, and I've been interested about this Lex forgetting his identity and this new status quo with him. How long was that going to last, and then how long was the Lois with powers going to last? We had seen Lois before in All-Star Superman where she got the powers for like a day, but having her have these powers for a long extended period of time is interesting because she's one of those characters that's been around for 70 years, however long Lois Lane has been around, and for I would say 98% of that time she's been depowered. What is it? It's interesting that it's taken this long to do that.
Here's the thing that's interesting about that is because she's been depowered for like 80 plus years, you almost, when you like just pitch the idea, we're going to give Lois superpowers, and you have to but why? Are we just doing it to do it, or is there a good story character reason? And I really feel like the book has been doing a really good job of having there be a character reason for it. Like, she's having these powers because of this, and it's another thing on top of being editor-in-chief of the planet that's like an added responsibility for her. And I think they've been doing a great job of that.
That's right.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's plenty of Silver Age stories of Lois getting powers, and which are not not all awesome. And then there's Grant Morrison, Absolute Superman, that is awesome. And it's very, I love to see more of a longer look at that idea of Lois having powers, where it's not just sort of a one issue thing, or that turns out to be a dream or whatever in the Silver Age. But I love getting to see what the implications of that are. And I always love seeing Lois and Clark as partners. Partners in life, but here they're partners in business and in heroics. I love to see them have that connection point. Mercy said it like, now you get to experience a new thing together, kryptonite.
Yes, 100%. Tim Tangent, what are you thinking about this issue of Superman number 24?
If you told me that I would spend near $5 to watch Lois team up with the Creeper, it's like, take my money, and they did. Just not the combo I was expecting in my life, but it weirdly worked because Jack Ryder underneath is also a news guy, and so you have these two news people teaming up on the Justice League, even though they're just polar opposites from each other. It was just a wild, like, little side tangent of a bit. But I did like how the story progressed. It's still pretty Lois centric. I like Eddie Barrows a lot, and so sometimes his faces are very strange. He's going through this era where he makes strange faces. There's one panel of Lois flying that is, I don't know how her head is attached to her body. But otherwise I really like it, and I do like that the story of Lex is progressing. Even though he's getting his memories back, he's still taking responsibility for actions, but there's got to be some line that he toes where there's going to be a cross somewhere where now he's using it to his advantage, and you're just kind of waiting for that moment to drop, but you just still really don't know where the moment is. He's doing his own, growing the beard Riker thing, how many those?
He kind of looks like when I saw the beard thing, I'm like, oh, so now they're making the Lex Luthor of comics look just like the ones on TV,
right?
because between Titans and Superman and Lois, it just like, okay, so he's got his Heisenberg thing going on. So
yes,
never had a beard, right? Now there it is.
Now it's everywhere. Huh? Thank you, Michael Cudlitz.
Yes.
That's right.
Anything else for this issue specifically, Superman 24? Anything that we missed?
I'm excited for their, what do they say, epic issue 25?
Yeah, it's supposed to be a big one.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I'm looking forward to that. Also, looking forward to Absolute Superman, my favorite book that comes out on a monthly basis involving Superman. This issue, again, written by Jason Aaron and art by Rafael Sandoval. Really again, I'm kind of like a broken record, taking one thing, changing it just a little bit, and having the butterfly effect of the ripples. How did that affect this world, this universe, this character that we all have grown up with and we have certain memories of and attachments to? Okay, now we're seeing Superman, we're seeing Kal-El on Krypton longer than we've ever seen him before. This one, and it also feels very similar to how Brian Michael Bendis decompressed Spider-Man's origin from a couple pages originally from Stan Lee into like a 6-issue arc of his origin story. That's what this one feels like. So we're seeing the evacuation of Krypton. We're seeing the suit, the AI suit that we talked about, turning into like ships and covering people, which all of that stuff has been fantastic to me. But I wanted to pose a question to the panel, to the super panel. Do you think, or I guess, how much of Kal-El's responsibility do you think it was that a panic was caused, a mass panic on Krypton when they were evacuating? And was that a good thing versus if he had not? I'll start with our guest, Super Tim. How did when you were reading this Absolute Superman number 5?
Well, I'm sure that these thoughts are going to be going through Kal-El's mind as he makes the 3-year journey from Krypton to Earth. Because you could argue that maybe because the heartbreaking thing of this issue was because as all the refugees are getting onto the ship and are just like, oh, so Jor-El and Lara are with them? Huh, that's weird. Are we going to reveal them on Earth at some point? And then they then they died, and my heart got ripped out of my chest. And so I'm sure he's going to be thinking about, like, did I do the right thing here? And that's the thing, is Superman always does what he believes is the right thing, and sometimes not a lot of people agree with him on what that right thing is. Like, should he have been more methodical? Should he have been more calculated? But he's a kid, so he's going to do what kids do. And so, and seeing the consequences of that choice was very heartbreaking. I felt for Cal in that moment, and so it's just a very interesting question, and I don't know if I have a definitive answer for it.
I actually have a question for Tim Tangent. Do you think his parents are dead? Do you think? I don't think we saw a body. We didn't see the incineration.
That's true.
Do you think they are really dead, or is this going to be another twist that we haven't seen before? Oh, they actually survived, but then they die later. What are your thoughts?
I think when you said, like, did we see a body? Like, technically, I haven't seen the bodies of the original parents either. Like, so turns out one of them is alive too. So,
we still haven't seen the bodies of the entire population of Krypton. Now that we're bringing this up,
that's true. Yeah.
Absolute Superman seems to subvert more than just the basic story, and so I do think that there's definitely more to it. So I saw Frank make a face. So Frank, why don't you step in?
Yeah, Vactor, I had the same thought, like, while I was reading it, of like, okay, so they're getting separated. Interesting. There they go. They're saying goodbye to him, and here's the explosion. But I didn't see their ship blow up. And if he got through it, it's possible that they did. It's possible that there is a colony of Kryptonian refugees somewhere, a sort of new Krypton of sorts that we're going to encounter here. I don't know, but the theme that kept coming up and that he kept talking about was hope, right? And that even as they were leaving Krypton, he found a sense of hope. And the very last page, as he's heading to Smallville, the sign that says Smallville, Kansas, 10 miles ahead, ad astra per aspera is Latin for to the stars through hope. So that theme is clearly going to carry through.
That was a great final page.
And when I read that, I was like, hey, I remember that Star Trek Strange New Worlds episode too.
Like I said, just the way that Jason Aaron is telling this story and the way that he's subverting our expectations, I love. And that, like, I just feel like I'm just repeating myself over and over again. I love that about Ultimate Spider-Man. I love that about Absolute Batman, that I'm reading this story in a new version, like a new light, and it feels so fresh to me. It feels so new, even though it's a character that I've grown up with and I've loved for so long. But with these characters, you have to do that because they've been around for 70, 80 years.
Especially the big three.
Yeah. This is a good way to keep them relevant and to keep them fresh. I reread the panels where they showed the parents dying or everyone evacuating off of Krypton, and I was like, man, you could read it either way. Yes. And I think that's really smart, and it's fun for us because we don't know the next issue yet. Someone who's, reading it in trade, or they already know what's going to happen, that's going to be a different story. But the experience of reading it right now, where we don't know specifically what's going to happen, but we have in the back of our mind of what happened to our Superman, our Kal-El. And so we're kind of playing off of that. But this is just another great issue. And I love seeing all of this Krypton stuff, and also the suit, the AI, all of the stuff with the cape. I'm really loving this new take on Superman. And I feel like this is what the New 52 Superman should have been, because I had a big hype and anticipation for New 52, especially because Grant Morrison was writing, was it Action?
Yeah, it was Action.
I think writing Action, yeah.
It was Action.
I was really excited about that. And he was, I remember reading all the interviews, and he was like, oh, this is going to be a way different Kal-El. He's a grounded, he's back to the original beating up muggers and wife beaters and stuff like that. And he's got boots on and all this stuff. And I just felt like at the end of the day, it didn't feel that much different to me. And then they ended up like wiping him away. And I was like, that Superman, we don't care about him anymore. But I feel like this version, like the way that this is being done, is what I wanted out of the new.
What I think is interesting about this Superman and the connection to Krypton is we're so used to Jor-El and Lara just saving Kal-El.
Right? Yeah.
And so in this one, they're like, this is all we could do. We can only save this amount of people because this is all our resources will allow us to do. And I think that Kal-El is at that impressionable age where his parents can do no wrong, right? In some ways. But then so he's only going to take that example and up it is what we're seeing him do. So it's not just about saving it like I can only save these people, but it's I'm going to save all the people, right? Because now he can, or he feels that he can, or that he has to make up for the fact that his parents couldn't save Krypton. So there's like this real guilt factor to this Superman that really doesn't exist in regular continuity Superman, because he was just a wee baby. Like he should have that kind of guilt.
It also kind of reminds me of like the take that Tom King did on Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, and how like all these memories that Kara has of Krypton inform her character and inform how she reacts to things and inform how she like her heroism. And having Kal-El be a little older is really interesting because we get to see him like make choices and react to things, and things that we can't really see a baby do. And because like for the most part, Jor-El and Lara have just been kind of like this like distant people that like can do no wrong, and they have all the answers and they have all the information stuff. So to kind of see them like, well, this is all we could do. It humanizes them a little bit, and we don't really get to see that too often. We get it here and there, but that's what I've enjoyed about the Krypton stuff, is seeing kind of the humanity of Jor-El and Lara as not only as parents but as people.
Yeah, and I like that it's not twisting it on its head. And Thomas Wayne, he was having an affair with Martha, and he was doing these bad things. You thought he was a good guy the whole time, and he was doing these bad things behind his back. I was like, I like that they're keeping it, Laura and Jor-El. These are good people. These are good things that are happening. And they, like Mr. Tangent said, this is what's going to shape Superman. And that really hits home with me, because I feel like a lot of my morality comes from superheroes and from my parents. Those two things come together when I was a kid, and saying, okay, this is the right thing to do. This is how you should live your life, and you should do things for the right reasons. So I like that. Like I said, it resonates with me and it hits home. So man, absolute Superman still. I am loving it. Let's talk about Action Comics number 1084, which I'm not loving so much. I actually did like this one more than the previous ones that we've talked about, but I know that Tim Tangent likes.
I actually liked this one less than the other one.
Yeah. Talk about twists.
Okay.
Yeah, this one just felt like, and we're wrapping up, and also the art's just okay. Let's move on. All right,
that. Yeah, I definitely the finale of this arc that we've been going through, I liked the way that they were doing it. And I was actually having fun as I was reading it, because like I said, I went into it with such low expectations, and I was like, oh, I'm actually enjoying this. I'm having fun eating my popcorn and watching Superman punch people. Mr. Superfrank, what do you think about Action Comics number 1084?
Yeah, this was a book that I read. Yeah, this action arc didn't do a lot for me. Bruno Mannheim in general doesn't do a lot for me, but with exceptions. But I'm ready for another story. I'm ready for a fresh story. Yeah,
you know what it is? I think that I've seen Superman learn this lesson that he learned in here about truth versus justice. And, like it's a lesson he's learned before. So the issues truly do feel like filler issues, because they're looping a story that's been told just for the sake of looping it. And I mean, if I was a new reader, I might not necessarily have gotten this before, right? Sure. And so, which is fine, totally fine, because you have to hit different people at different times and whatever else. A story that I read 20 years ago that definitely wasn't new because somebody did it in the 70s or the 80s,
right.
That's okay. I'm all right with that. But I guess it just kind of resolved the way I expected it to resolve. And so it was just very, like we've all said at different points, a book I read.
Yeah.
And that's that thing I was saying, like having these characters around for so many years, you have to have these fresh takes and these new things to breathe life into the characters because we've been reading them for so long. Super Tim,
He's 87. I mean, like,
what did you think about Action Comics? I don't know if I've talked to you off mic about Action Comics. What have you been thinking about this storylines?
So far, it's just been a book that I've read. That's how I felt about it. I've liked certain aspects. There was like a couple panels that I read in this that was like, oh yeah, that's Superman. And it was, I don't remember where it was, but you know what I'm talking about. And really strong. But overall, I feel like for the most part, the Superman superstar stuff have just been like what Tim Tangent has been saying. They've just been filler arcs. Like Mark Waid is building his story for the next round, which is we know that he's doing that. So like I like Jason Aaron's Bizarro. The Rainbow Rowell story was fine, but this was just like okay, like it just feels like filler. It just feels like filler. A lot of them
feels like filler.
Yeah, it feels like Tim Tangent said, like we're repeating these stories that we've seen before, and it's just like okay, like and with this one, also Tim Tangent said the art wasn't great. Yeah, I noticed that as well. It was only all right. So I'm just waiting until whenever we get Action Comics 1087 and get Mark Waid back and tell him.
Yes, and that's kind of a shame because I feel the same way about Amazing Spider-Man over at Marvel. That's like the flagship Spider-Man title, so I always feel like it should be amazing, and when it's not,
no pun intended.
Yes, it should be spectacular. It should be ultimate.
I see what you did there.
Nice.
Let's just loop in all
it should be
all the
superior.
adjectives.
It should be the superior book, but I feel like when
I
it's
feel
not,
like it's adjectiveless.
Yes, it's just like, man, you're missing an opportunity because it's like this is the spotlight book. This is the one that people are looking at and saying, hey, that's Spider-Man or that's Superman, because Action and Superman like have and Detective, same with Batman. So this one I felt kind of like, man, I wouldn't probably be picking this up if it wasn't for this show. And that's a shame because Action should be like, the main book.
Yeah.
But it felt phoned in. It honestly felt kind of phoned in.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get to something that I don't think felt phoned in. The DC Sonic the Hedgehog crossover issue #1, which I had seen the solicitations for this, and I was like, oh man, here we go. But I'm a fan of Sonic the Hedgehog. I played the video games when I was growing up. I actually like the movies, the live action Sonic the Hedgehog movies. I think they're fun. But I want to know, what did you guys think about Sonic the Hedgehog? Let's go straight to Super Tim. Super Tim.
Whenever these kind of like cross IP things come around, I'm always a little hesitant because I'm like, is this going to be good? I feel that way every time I see one of these things. I'm like, Batman versus Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers versus Justice League.
There's actually a lot of these crossovers that are happening right now.
There's a lot.
Wasn't there a Star Trek Green Lantern Corps one a few years ago?
There was, yeah. I remember that. Yep. Yeah. And I'm always hesitant because I'm like, it just sometimes just feels inherently like a cash grab. And I'm just like, okay, they're just because obviously DC is cashing in on the recent success of the Sonic movie franchise and stuff. But the way this issue was formatted by pairing certain characters together was just, I was like, of course Batman would be with Shadow. That makes sense. Or of course Sonic would pair up with the Flash, and that's what made this issue and what's going to make this book really fun to read is to see all these different character pairings, and that's what you got to do with a book like this, is you got to figure out how to make the different IPs work within a story, and I think they knocked it out of the park with this one.
Yeah. I forgot to mention the credits real quick. Ian Flynn is the writer and Adam Bryce Thomas, the artist. Super Tim brings up a great point about the pairings and the kind of getting the other side caught up. So like if you're a Sonic fan and you know all those characters, it catches you, oh, the DC equivalent is this character. Or if you're a DC fan and you're like, oh, that Sonic character is like this character I already know from DC.
And it had been a long time since I've seen a lot of these characters. Like I've obviously seen Sonic and Tails and Knuckles and Shadow in the recent movies, but I hadn't seen Amy Rose, and I'm going to do a callback here, since the Sonic Adventure game for the Sega Dreamcast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a long time.
She's actually going to be appearing she was in the post-credit scene of the Sonic 3 movie. So she's going to be...
yet, so.
Whoops, spoiler.
Well, that's fine. That's fine. It's
She's
not
gonna
a
be
big spoiler.
appearing in the next.
It's fine.
Sonic
It's fine. No, but yeah, like some of these characters I hadn't seen in a long time, and so kind of catching up with them was kind of nice. And the book did a really good job of doing that too.
Yes, Super Frank. Are you a Sonic fan?
I'm not. I mean, I played some of the games as a kid, but I was never a Sega kid in general. So Sonic sort of passed me by a little bit. I always had either Nintendo or Sony stuff.
Yes.
So I just sort of didn't really get on the Sonic train all that much as a kid. I haven't seen the movies. It's kind of just not my. I kind of just missed it. Kind of like I've said before, like Ninja Turtles, I just missed, just too young to like have gotten into that. And I think something similar is true of Sonic for me.
Gotcha. Tim Tangent.
I did not read this book, but I'm happy for you both.
It was a lot of fun. Sonic the Hedgehog eating chili dogs and racing Flash and telling him how he's faster than him. I had a blast with this book.
So fun.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to the next issue in this series. Let's get into something that I know Tim Tangent read, and that is Batman Superman World's Finest number 37. This is our book that we have been following for 37 issues, and we have been on Mark Waid's bandwagon for a while, but this is just a continuation of that series. You know what? I want to go straight to Super Frank. What did you think about Batman Superman's World's Finest number 37?
Didn't read it.
Okay.
Of course.
Him, right? Is that the yeah?
But I'm really
Vactor
happy for
is
you.
psychic, everybody.
I'll put it this way. This was a book I didn't read.
Yes, that is
There you
a
go.
way. That is one way to put it.
Frank changing it up.
Super Tim, what did you think?
I love this. I have been but before coming onto this podcast, I'd been behind on like a number of issues, so catching up was really fun. Like I think after the Mixus Pitalik arc was when I dropped off for a little bit, and so to pick this back up again was just I am amazed that Mark Waid has been. I mean, I shouldn't be because he's Mark Waid, but that he's been able to keep up the quality of this book for 37 issues. It's going to be almost 40 issues here pretty soon. And so that's been really great. And, you know, that he throws so many like deep cuts to not only Superman and Batman lore, but to DC lore. And the Floronic Man, who'd have thought we'd see him in a current book? I'm sure I'm butchering that name.
Also, no, that's right. You're right. That's Floronic Man.
All right, sweet.
Which it was also funny because that issue came out like the same week or very close to Harley Quinn, the episode of Harley Quinn, which had Floronic Man. And so I was like, Floronic Man he's coming back. He's having a resurgence.
Yeah.
It's a Floronaissance. I was very happy to
And
see
John
it.
Glover's going to play him again in a live action movie.
They had him doing the voice in Harley Quinn, I would have fell over.
That would have been
but-
amazing.
Yes.
But this book has been great. It's so funny that this month had two books that featured Lori Lamaris because she makes an appearance.
Mhm.
She makes an appearance in Last Days of Lex Luthor too. I'm like,
Yes.
that is so
Mhm.
weird that because they're two Mark Waid books and they're both Superman centric and
Yes.
they both had Lori Lamaris. And I
He was
love that
definitely
they
just writing them both at the same time, and he was like,
like let's just do it. Why not? Let's just throw her in there.
I feel like he was like, he thought the Last Days was going to come out earlier, and so he was like, "Oh yeah, they won't notice." But yeah, just the way that
thought we wouldn't notice, but we did. But yeah, I loved this whole thing with Atlantis and everything, and bringing Lori Lamaris in, which is like a super deep cut. And unless you're really well versed with Superman, you have no idea who that is. But seeing her come back and them kind of like poking fun at basically Clark Kent was really fun for me. I actually shared that panel with my wife, and she was like, "Oh, that's funny. That's weird." So that was fun.
Tim Tangent, what are you thinking about Batman Superman World's Finest?
I'm thinking I read way too many pages about Ronald, for his husband. Like just like the whole most of the issue was about his like emotional roller coaster getting to this place of acceptance with his wife, and they like moving on from this like mini little hiccup in their relationship. And that's really what this whole thing was about. And I just I appreciate like I guess the audacity almost of Mark Waid to be like, you're 37 issues in, you're gonna freaking read this issue about Ronan. You're gonna like it. And like, dang it, I did. Like you like got me. And I was like, I didn't I barely knew who that guy was before, like I read this arc. So props to him. But
Yes.
also, I do like Swamp Thing and the Floronic Man. So
Yes.
I was on.
Yeah, all
board.
that was great. All that was
Yes.
great.
That
And
was also
Aquaman.
good.
I love Aquaman. He does not get the love, but I love him. Yeah, so it was all good.
And that's what I think that's also a superpower of Mark Waid is taking lesser known characters. And I've said this many times. I feel like he has this encyclopedic brain and knowledge of DC characters. And he's always able to kind of put a spotlight. And that's this book, World's Finest, has been doing that from the first issue.
Oh yeah,
Just
100%.
characters that you don't like. It's not a household name or common. Like if they didn't have a movie, if they didn't have a live action, the main public is not going to know them for
but it's a really smart way to get people to
Yes.
know that because
Mhm.
it's a book with Superman and Batman, easy sell.
yes,
Right? It doesn't have
Yes.
tons of issues or backstory, easy sell. And so then all of a sudden he's almost like Brave and the Bolding it, where it's like,
Yeah.
it's all about
Yeah.
Batman.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
that's a
But you're
good
the middleman.
analogy.
Here's the Shazam family. Here's
yes,
Blue Beetle, Aquaman, Green Lantern, Gentleman Ghost, like whatever. And
Right.
it's just it's a great way to make people aware of especially if you're getting into comics, like it's a great way to be aware of the wider DC universe.
yes.
And I remember when I
love
first
that.
started reading this book, and I like my whole thing was like, when does this take place? When does this take place in the DC universe? Because of like where are we, kind of? But then like a couple issues in, I'm like, I don't care anymore because I'm just all into all the things that Wade's been doing with the book. And also looking super forward to the World's Finest Justice League Unlimited crossover that's happening. So excited! It's gonna be
yes,
be awesome. Great.
Superfrank, did you get a chance to check out The Last Days of Lex Luthor?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me tell you, Mark Waid, beautiful, brilliant Mark Waid. I love Mark Waid found. Did anyone else catch that Mark Waid found a way to reference himself?
Yes.
Did you catch it?
Yes, like all the flashbacks with Lex and Clark are direct callbacks to Superman Birthright.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I'm like
Birthright.
this is like Superman Birthright's one of my favorite comics ever, Superman or otherwise. And so I'm reading Last Days of Lex Luthor. I'm like, is he like referring to Superman Birthright? So then I exit out of this issue in my Kindle and I pull up Superman Birthright, start scrolling through it. I'm like, yep, he did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's brilliant. That's like so cool. Like
love
it kind of
that.
puts this in like it's like this own little Mark Waid comic universe kind of thing that I love.
Right.
It's great. So
Right.
So awesome. Yeah.
I love that. I would love to go to the Elseworlds universe where Mark Waid controls the whole DC universe.
Yes.
And then an Easter egg that I caught in here that I really enjoyed was actually, again, sort of referencing himself when Lois and Jimmy are talking about, should Superman kill Lex? And he says, Lois says, like, Superman doesn't kill. Full stop. If he gives in and snaps Luthor's neck, why not the Joker's? That is almost verbatim what Mark Waid said about Man of Steel.
Yes.
Yes, it
from
is.
Do you remember his review where he was like, some guy stood up and yelled at the screen and that guy was me?
I remember when I saw Man of Steel, I was like, well, he was fine. It was good, right? And then I read Mark Waid's post. I'm like, maybe it wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
But
also in that scene where like he referenced Lex Luthor, the Joker, and then references like Putin, and I'm like, wow, that seems topical now.
Very, yes, yeah.
Jeez.
We know where Mark Waid stands on things.
Yes.
Oh yes.
So I really loved the sort of opinionated take from Mark Waid on
Yeah.
And it's funny because I read this first issue in 2023 when it first came out, and then when the second issue came out, I was like, wait a minute, I already read this. Like, I had this deja vu feeling, and I was like, oh, okay. They had some type of scheduling mishap and error. But the next issue 3 is coming out this month in April. So we won't have to wait 2 years for the next
Thank
issue.
heavens for that.
the wild inconsistency is like absolute absolute Superman. No, not absolute Superman. All-Star Superman levels of inconsistency.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, that was crazy.
Brian Hitch is on the art. And like, he's great, but he's slow. But I mean, for good reason. Like,
Yes.
every every single panel is filled. Every single one. He does not take a day off. And so it's incredible.
Yeah, this one is kind of like they call it Black Label. And it's kind of it's a $6.99 book. It's more prestige, I think. And Brian Hitch, I feel like, has a widescreen art style. Like it's like you're watching on a big screen. Like the action is always epic. And what he was on Ultimates, it was like, this feels like a movie. And Last Days of Lex Luthor, I think it gives you that same feel. That's when you get Brian Hitch, I think you're doing that for a reason. And there's a specific look and feel that you want. And this book has it.
So if you say that, actually I want to add something to that with so typically when you think of like big action sweeping movies, like they're filmed in 283, like the aspect ratio 283. If you look at Brian Hitch's panels, a lot of them are aspect ratio 283.
Oh,
nice. Is that the same as anamorphic?
It's like CinemaScope. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
And so like Star Wars is 283.
Yeah.
Like, and so it's just like but it's just like an incredible, like, I'd say, design choice. Like as panel, you don't always think about panels as doing that, but
Right.
the majority of his panels are built that way, and so everything feels epic. Like, and that's like really the point of the aspect ratios. Very rarely does it go into like a 185 16:9 aspect ratio. It's really cool.
Yeah.
And this man knows what he's talking about. He has a film degree.
Nice. I also love anytime there's an exploration of Clark and Lex's relationship and the parallels between the childhood and the versions of each man and how their philosophies differ and ideologies. All of those things are always fascinating for me to explore and to jump into. So this was another of those great versions of doing that. And Mark Waid, again, showing his knowledge of, first of all, storytelling, but also Superman. And it's just so funny how many times he has stepped into the super world and told, like you said, Birthright and all of these things, Kingdom Come, like his resume, when he's done, it's like his obituary is going to be like, man, how much did he put into the world and how much
He'll
did
have
he
an S on his
enrich?
tombstone for sure.
Yeah,
That
no
would
kidding.
be amazing. You just gave me an idea for mine, but I think he has just added so much to the lore and to the world. Like, it's just amazing that every time something new comes out, I'm always like, oh, didn't he already say everything he had to say about Superman? And still finding new ways to do it. Also, speaking of, I've got an Irredeemable video coming out soon that I feel like is my love letter to Mark Waid and to his just everything that he is about and his relationship with Superman. I think he poured into Irredeemable. So that's just another way of Mark Waid kind of showing his expertise, I think, in all
And
things
to prepare
Superman.
for the release of that episode, yours truly has started reading that book for the first time.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's been fun. It's been fun.
It's a fun
Everyone
book.
check that out when it comes out. But man, I think we have reached the end of this month in Superman. Another great month for this month. Next month, let's see, we'll be talking about April in Superman. We've got some fun stuff coming up, but I think everyone should have some fun stuff by checking out Beer with Geeks, Superfrank and Tim Tangent. Do you have any upcoming episodes of Beer with Geeks that we should be excited for?
Yeah, Tim and I did a tier list of 200 some odd characters in the DC universe.
It was like
Wow.
Actually, it was 252 because 52.
That's right.
Of course.
But yes, we did a tier list ranking them, S tier down to F. Yeah, took us a couple episodes to get through it, but those are going to start to hit. So keep your eyes on the feeds for those.
Nice. Okay, excellent. Super Tim, you've got a Substack, which I will
do.
link in the
I
show
do.
notes.
I have a Substack in which I talk about writing, and because that's the thing I do, and I've interviewed local authors and stuff and talking about their process and stuff. It's kind of, I haven't updated in a while, but I'm starting to find some time to do that.
Yes. Everyone check that out in the show notes. Like I said, we will be back next month for more This Month in Superman. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, up and away, and go read some Superman comics.